Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the Slipstream F1 Championship, race number 1 at the Australian Grand Prix. And tonight's going to be a fun race to watch. Right now, the racers are under practice for another about 12 minutes and 50 seconds. My name is Sam Dyer, and with me here today is Anthony McCurry. I'm sorry, I messed up your last name there, Anthony.
It's all good.
I'm excited for this race. We've been watching these guys practice for over 15 minutes here, and Australia is one of those tracks that almost everyone knows. How are you feeling about this race so far?
Well, Australia has been raced in various forms of Formula One video games forever. As whoa, you look on the track. I don't know if you were on Spain just now, but he took a dive into heading down towards Ascari. But back to what I was saying before I was about to say that, Australia is one of these tracks that throughout the various forms of Formula One games that people seem to know the best, because it's always the first race of the season. You do most of your test laps at this track, so I feel like these drivers have got a pretty good handle on it, even though this is a brand new car, obviously a little bit more downforce than last year's version of the car, so we're going to see some fast laps. We've already seen 123.1s from Aki, which is something unprecedented. That's super fast. But as far as that goes, I think we're going to see some really close racing here at Albert Park.
Yeah, I'm on board with Aki right now, and he is on the lap number 4 on these tires. So it looks like he's trying to do a long-distance run to get the practice to see how the tire wear will be on this medium compound. Now, most of these drivers, they are going to have a one-lap qualifying after this practice, and during that one lap, the drivers will have to pick and choose which tire compound they're going to be using for the start of the race. We've only got 9 drivers here for this race this evening, and it's going to be a full course race. It looks like actually a car spun out back in sector 3. We're going to look and see who that was.
Our yellow's waved.
I believe that is JD, who's just coasting his car around after finishing up like looks like to be a Q run for himself. So
yeah, some of these drivers are in full race trim. I think he's actually something's very wrong with that car.
We're going to swap back down to JD, and yeah, something isn't right, because he's cruising really slow, and usually you see this during qualifying. If it's time qualifying, usually not during practice. Drivers are pushing around, and maybe I think he's on his out. Yeah, as you can see on our telemetry, he was on his out lap trying to save those tires. This is a Q run that he's going to be doing right here on the medium compounds. We're actually going to stay on board with JD here. little bit of corner cut during that first corner, and drivers are not going to be able to do that for their qualifying one lapper, or that will invalidate their lap. But here during practice, it will not invalidate it just yet.
I've seen him working the overtake button too. At the beginning, it looks like that he couldn't switch between ERS modes, and I was kind of concerned about that because I didn't know if that might have been a problem with his car. These Ferraris, though, have been fast. We've seen both of the Ferraris up at the top of the tables. Right now, they're fourth and first at the moment, but these drivers just trying to feel out where they can use the overtake button. The overtake button, I believe, is fairly recently new towards Formula One racing. It's if you're familiar with the IndyCar push to pass button, it's basically what this is, and it's to promote. Even if you have DRS, you can still be on the overtake, and even if you're under attack by somebody on DRS, you can use overtake and defend your line better. So I think these drivers are going to have it's going to be a little weird to figure out where they can use the overtake button efficiently, because some of these corners you try to come out of and you might have some severe wheel spin even if you're on the softest compound. So you're going to have to be careful when using it, especially out of the final turn 16 is going to be one of the trouble spots we're going to see today.
And that lap being put down is a 124.2 for JD. And yeah, the ERS buttons have been switched up, as you're seeing the Ferrari cooling down his tires. We're actually going to be moving to Melvin. Actually, we haven't watched the Red Bull machine at all during practice here just yet, so we'll watch the driver that is third on the leaderboard here during practice. But the ERS system got a little bit of a change since last game to this game. Like you said, you're only able to switch it to overtake, which is something completely different. In the last game, the drivers were able to really pick and choose where they wanted their ERS. So they wanted it completely off, so they didn't have the max amount of power in their machine, or cranking it all the way up to the highest level, which was hot lap at the time. So it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers can change that up. But here with the drivers in the Slipstream series, this actually isn't their first season. These drivers, this is their first time that they've been doing the PC version of Slipstream. They took quite a long hiatus from racing these series back in the console days, and now we are back at it again for these drivers to see how well they have transitioned from their break of racing in F1. And honestly, the driver that's on top of the board, Aki, he was the one who really dominated most of these seasons back in the old days on the Xbox, when they used to play on the Xbox. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can continue his run, or if Spain can come back and make a hard charge, because he's been actually playing a ton of F1 from all the different F1 games. He's been picking up pace over and over as Melvin putting down the fastest lap here in the softs.
122.3. That woke everybody up. That was a lightning quick lap from the Red Bull. And he just left everyone in the dust.
We're swapping back to Spain because Spain's also on that same lap. Looks like Cosmic is going to be out of this thing, wrecking out of practice session. We'll be back for qualifying.
Whoa.
And put down the quickest time goes to Spain, as he's now on softs. And Aki, when he put down his time, he was on softs. JD's now out of this practice session. Drivers make heavy contact. That's Spain that is done now for practice. More machines got to be dodging and weaving. And that is huge contacts for all those drivers out there.
He ran into the racing point of Cosmic Cloud, and that was a heavy impact. I don't think that Spain quite saw where he was on the racetrack, but that might be his practice session over, as well as Cosmic. So that was a huge impact coming out of turn 2.
A total of 4 drivers now out of practice. 5 cars left to put some laps down. We're on top of Frozen, who's on his timed lap, looking to be running a little bit off course. So right now 6th on the point, but first car that wrecked out of practice was going to be Hazardous, and that machine is going to be having a rough day today. Actually, Hazardous, we know this is his first time on the F1 games, so it's going to be interesting to see how well a beginner goes with some of these veterans that are out here. But Frozen putting down a decent lap time so far. We'll see how much better this 6th machine can go. I mean, this car that's in 6th place in the Haas machine in the softer compounds.
His Sector 2 times weren't so bad. His Sector 3, now he's coming out of the final turn now. He's going to be quite a bit behind these leaders right now. He's going to put in a 128.2. So not really the greatest time that we've seen on the soft compound, but he could get faster as the race goes on. I don't think he's turned very many laps. It's interesting to see some of these drivers that maybe not so prevalent in Formula One. Oh, he just launched it into turn 3. But they're
Decided
trying
to
to learn the track.
launch.
They're trying to learn the track. This is the first time that they've been on the Albert Park circuit, so you're gonna have to find your braking zones. You're gonna have to find your acceleration zones, and the fact that you have all these things that you have to do during the race, such as work the ARS and the brake bias, the DRS when you have it. It's a whole new world for some of these drivers, and they're gonna have to learn how to do it during during essentially their first race.
What's looking like to be Tanner Johnson's quality practice lap there in the Haas machine. Overshoots turn number 1, and that's already not looking to be a great lap. But yeah, while we were talking about Frozen there for a second, Trunks was able to move up to 3rd during practice here. But you see, we're running down time. 4 minutes left in practice. Once this is over, we'll be going to a 1-lap shootout for qualifying. Everyone gets 1 lap chance out there to see who will put down the best lap time. As, like I said, we're on board with Tanner Johnson, and he just looks a little uncomfortable overshooting a lot of these corners, and like you said, probably still learning the track, but also trying to figure out how much you can push this machine, as he seems to be just overshooting it every time.
Yeah, the car doesn't look too incredibly happy in the turns. Even down the straights, it looks like there's a lot of weaving around the circuit. He's working the car, seeing what it can do, seeing what the limitations of these cars. Because even though that these cars are the fastest in the world, they still have their limitations. So these drivers are also trying to find out the kinks, see what they can and can't do, and we should see the lap times pick up in qualifying because these cars are in race trim right now. They're not in qualifying trim. So I would imagine that the 122s we're seeing now could even be as high as little as 121s when we get the queue. As Tanner's going to cross the line, he's going to be a 127.0 for the Haas machine.
We'll see if Tanner decides to go back out, but we're going to be moving up to Aki, who just put down a purple Sector 1, was formerly on top of the board until you saw Melvin, Trunks, and Spain go and take that spot from this Ferrari machine. Aki wants to be showing everyone, hey, I'm the fastest car out here, because there's kind of a rivalry that's been brewing up through the offseason between Spain and Aki, and we're ready to see the boiling point here once we get into the green.
Indeed, he's on a banger lap right now. He just put in a purple sector 2. He is on a charge right now. He's on the DRS going into Ascari coming out. He's not on the overtake, which is kind of interesting, or if he was, we didn't show it on the telemetry. Into the final the final chicane 15 and 16. We're going to see what his lap time is, but it's looking mighty fast as he gets a little bit of the wall out. It's going to hurt him down the front stretch.
Yeah, only able to move up to 3rd, passing Trunks. But you know, if you stayed on track, didn't hit the wall, that Ferrari was bad. I mean, both Sector 1 and 2 was looking like about to put down the fastest lap during practice. Not going to get it done. But on outlaps, it's going to be Melvin as well as Trunks out there. And we watched Melvin put down the fastest lap, but we haven't really watched Trunks at all during practice. So we'll hop on board with this Racing Point machine. And Trunks is going to be interesting to see how he comes into this, because right now only able to best Aki and not able to really put a show up for our top 2 at the moment. But we'll see on this outlap, and now coming to starting his lap, where this Racing Point machine will be, as we've got 1 minute left. The drivers that are crossing the line now should be able to finish their time and be able to at least put one more out there. Don't know if anyone else is going to be able to put do another lap besides the ones they're on right now. We'll have to wait and see, but on board with Trunks.
Seems to be going at a very fast pace. I don't know quite what the split's going to be once he gets to the end of Sector 1. We'll have to see, but it looks like it's on one of the faster laps. He's coming into turn 5 down to 6. There's a little bit of shadow in that part of the track. He's purple. It's purple in Sector 1. As there is a shadow, like I said, there's a shadow that just fell over the track, so we might end up with some weather at the end of this practice. I don't think we're scheduled for any rain this weekend, but that's something we have to consider.
They are on dynamic weather. We'll have to wait and see. As us as spectators, we will not be notified of what the weather forecast is looking like, so we'll have to talk to the drivers if they know what's going to be going on. for this racetrack. As practice is coming to an end. Once the timer runs out, they'll be given a little bit of extra time to at least finish the lap that they're on. And one and done. Everyone that's out there on track, Melvin Trunks and Tanner Johnson, they're all out there putting down their final laps. As
This
coming
is
around
going
the
to be
final
a purple
corner.
lap. It's going to be purple lap, I think.
In the DRS, here comes the Racing Point machine of Trunks, and across the line, P1.
Oh, barely though. That was down to hundredths of a second.
Final car out on track is going to be Tanner Johnson, but hundredths of a second beating out Spain, and Spain not able to put down a better lap after making contact with Frozen of Haas, who was already broken in the middle of the track, back with 3 minutes left in the practice, I should say. But Tanner Johnson just looking to at least best his best lap right now, as he didn't. Well, I mean, he's on the older tires. It's gonna be hard to best what he's got so far.
That is true. And, these drivers don't want to use up their tires too early because they only have a certain amount of sets that they can use for each session. And with it being one shot qualifying, they don't really have to worry about their Q tires too much. But when you get to the race, you don't want to have to use some worn down tires. So he's coming into turn 15 and 16 now. We're going to see what he can do out to the front stretch on the DRS and the overtake button. No, he's not on the overtake. He's going to cross the line, a 127.3. So not really the fastest lap. Those are very worn tires, though. And it doesn't look like he was pushing too hard on this final lap.
Now it looks like Tanner might be just trying to log laps, get that practice in. Practice is now officially over as the timer is ticking down due to the fact that Aki is in pit road. We're going to have to wait another minute and 15 seconds for us to get back underway, but Anthony, what after watching practice right there, is there anything that's really shocking to you based off that practice?
The top 5 are within 1 second of each other, and anyone can have this. Well, the top 4 really are within 1 second of each other, and they've been able to manage this track very well. It's going to be a tight battle between 4 cars when we get into the race. And we've also, something that I've noticed throughout is that they're having a lot of problems with with turn 3 especially. We've seen a few cars go off in turn 3, and I didn't really expect us to see that many go off, but it's a kind of a deceiving turn. You think that you can drive it in deeper than you can, and it's at the end of a DRS zone, so depending on if you're on or off the DRS, depends on where your braking zone is, and because it has a little bit of a bend towards the right before you actually get into the braking zone, it can throw a driver off. Also, well, actually, no, that's about it. That's all I've noticed, really, is also these drivers can hot lap this track like no one's business.
Yeah, it looks like our top 4 going to be right on top of one another, all within 4/10 when they put down those fast laps. Everyone else, though, looks like they're going to be in their own type of a race, and I'm kind of banking on everyone else to wreck out at some point to gain those positions. And I think for Hazardous, his goal right now, just to log laps, survive this race, and set yourself up for Bahrain next week. That is going to be our next race on the schedule for these drivers, but they first have to get by this racetrack here at Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix, and it's going to be a fun one. We get to do a full circuit here as the drivers are starting their laps, and they're going to be shifting all over the place. They're all qualifying at the same time. So you're going to see on the telemetry of live timing on who's up front, and at the moment, it's Spain.
And he's going completely rocket mode at the moment. He is putting in some banger laps, and I don't know. I think he might be the top of the table by the end of this, but we have to see. There's 3 other drivers that have comparable lap times, so we'll have to see how he does.
Right now, we're looking at the times, and right now ahead of the field, JD going to be second, Aki third, and Melvin fourth. We're not surprised by our top 4, but I am surprised on our bottom 2 as Hazard was able to get by Frozen, bottom of the field, and now they're swapping back and forth at the bottom. And right now up front, going through sector 2, almost coming to the end here. This is going to be a tricky spot for these drivers all race long. This fast little kinks chicane there for the drivers. Something to watch out for. Spain still ahead of Aki, who was coming for a hard charge in second.
Yeah, Aki has been on a banger of a lap. He just came out of the Scari, going down into the final 3 corners. It's going to be really close at the top of the table. We're going to see them hit the line very soon. Akey is catching up to Spain a bit. We'll have to see what the split is when they get to the line as they come down the front stretch. Looks like Spain still has it, and he puts in. Wow, whoa! JD with a surprising second place.
Trunk dropped like a rock through the middle of that quali, and he's now going to be starting in the middle, but we know Spain got the pole. I was not able to see where Hazard was. Hazard 7th. That is
Wow.
incredible for someone who just started on F1 2020 here today. But Spain going to be on top of the board with a 121.0, almost a 120. That would have been incredible, but JD, probably our biggest surprise, up in second.
Yeah, he didn't seem to have that much speed during practice, and we were kind of marking him as a mid-tier car. But out of nowhere, JD with a 121.7, besting his teammate Aki. So the surprise from the Ferrari driver.
Major surprise being made, and it's going to be awesome to watch these drivers as they continue forward. But right now, we are waiting for these drivers to load in and get ready for the race. As qualifying's done, practice is done. Now it's time for the 58 laps here in the Australian Grand Prix. Anthony, are you ready for this?
I'm ready for this. Australia has a special place in my heart. It was the first place that I ever won a race on Formula One on, and I'm excited to see what these drivers can do to put on a show for us here today. The track, as we are loading into the session, does look dark. It does not look as bright and sunny as it was during practice. That might be a foreboding variable for these drivers that they're going to have to deal with maybe some weather later on in the race. But we're getting ready to get in.
25 seconds to load in. Like I said, my name is Sam Dyer. This is Anthony McCurry. And gonna be saying this is gonna be a fun race to watch, but it's gonna be interesting. 9 drivers for 58 laps. Now, based off the time, it should be an hour and 30 of a race. It's gonna be a way our top 4 were running during during practice. We were already intrigued. And then you had 2 drivers step it up, Frozen and JD. Lights are not ready to go. Looking like it's actually going to be a 3-stopper for these drivers, as you can see by the predictions of the stops for these drivers. Interesting for a 3-stopper for this race. Wondering if anyone's going to try to change it to a 2.
That's something that I really didn't expect. I thought that maybe they could do 2 with medium hard compounds, but a lot of these drivers are starting on the softs. As you see up there, Spain is on the softs, JD's on the softs, and I think Aki's on the softs, so they might be doing 3 stops because it seemed like the soft tires fell off quite a bit during practice. We saw some drivers that were on softs for the majority of the practice runs. They could not keep speed more than a few laps, so I would be amazed to see them stay out for very long on these tires. Your starting lineup, as we're getting ready for this Grand Prix, they are on the formation lap as we speak. Spain is your pole sitter. He's sharing the front row with JD. Aki in third, Melvin fourth, Cosmic Cloud in fifth. Trunks is in 6th, Hazard is 7th, Tanner is in 8th, and Frozen Inerta is in 9th place. That's how they line up for the Australian Grand Prix.
As you see the drivers going through this quick section, that's going to be one of the spots we watch out for. If you hit that wrong, there's a chance you could be throwing your car out into the inside or outside wall. There's also, on the final corner of this racetrack, is another tricky spot where you're going to lose a lot of time. Also, like we saw Aki do during practice, you can put your car into the wall. So a lot of spots to watch out here on track, and a lot of hard braking zones for passes to be made. Right now, I think quarter number 3 and 4 probably are my favorite spots to try to make some passes on drivers, and then also the last couple of corners.
I think 1 and 2, you're going to see a lot of people make passes. It's the longest DRS zone we have. It's a hard right-hand chicane. A lot of drivers are going to be making their pass attempts there, I believe so, as the cars line up for the start of the Australian Grand Prix. And pretty soon we're going to get lights out.
Anthony and I are about to watch a great race here today. 58 laps, 5 lights are up, and away we go. as Spain leading the way. JD second. Who's going to get the best launch here as we're watching cars coming down the straight? It's looking like the Racing Point driver's got some good points. Oh, it's already car spinning around. That's Aki.
Aki has gone around in the Ferrari in turn 1, but it looks like that he's got it back on the track. It's a charge down into turn 3 between Spain and JD. It looks like no one really has the advantage as they come out of turn number 3 into 4. And right there, a Racing Point went off the track. That's Trunks in the number 9 Racing Point as his teammate is catching up. As they're back here, they are right wing to wing with each other. As it doesn't look like they've separated by much, and it looks like that someone's going to have a dive down. No, it was not. It was one of the Haas cars. I believe that was Tanner defending on the AlphaTauri of Hazardous.
Yeah, really, all these guys in the back really have been racing hard. We're still watching as Hazardous is really pinched between two Haas drivers. It's a Haas sandwich. The car all the way back in last. That's Aki, who's hoping to have a great start here today. Drops all the way back to last after an early spin. We're going to move back up front as it's still very close action with our top 3 of Spain, JD, and Melvin. And right now, JD right on the back bumper of that AlphaTauri. And all the way to the back, 5-second penalty collision with Hazardous is going to be going to Frozen, as Frozen and also Hazardous spinning out in the back.
Right, I saw the yellow flags in the 3rd sector, and I looked on the mini map and saw that they were stopped down there. It looks like they've got going again up at the front. It's still Spain trying to hold a charge, and we got a car on pit road. I believe that's Cosmic. He's on the pit road.
Cosmic is going to be coming into the pits, preparing his wing, getting new soft tires out there, and back up front. I mean, as you can see, there actually is a 2-stop strategy for these drivers. A soft around lap 20 or so, and then go on with the mediums, but most of the drivers probably going to be going for the 3-stopper. As right now, looking, JD purpled sector 1 on lap number 2, who's led by Spain, but still our top 3 nose to tail, all within a second.
Yeah, they haven't really seemed to get away from each other. Spain it's got a slower car at the moment. DRS is not enabled yet, but you got to believe that he is using the ERS to keep up with Spain. JD is. DRS will be enabled on lap 3. As it looks like that Spain went a little wide coming out of the chicane there, and now it's allowed JD to catch up a little bit as the skies are getting darker down towards Ascari. I don't know if I keep saying it, but we might have some wet weather come soon because it's getting really dark down there.
In most other racing sports, you don't race in the rain, but here in F1, you put on some wet tires and you get back out there and start racing. It's looking like most of that shadow, though, is in Sector 3, so we'll wait and see if it moves to Sector 2 or into the start of Sector 1. I think that's when we're going to be seeing drivers get a little bit more nervous that rain is coming, but so far, the cloud cover only in Sector 3. No rain to be seen in the at least the next couple of laps. Maybe further on in the race, we might be seeing some rain.
Looks like that everything that Spain has for a predicted pit stop strategy is nothing but 3 stops, and it's going soft, and then medium at the end of the race. We've seen some drivers that have 2-stop strategies, so it's going to be interesting to see who can win the battle on pit road and the battle of stop number. But that means that these drivers have got to get away if they're going to make a 2-stop or a 3-stop work against some of these 2-stop drivers, as JD drove it down into turn number 9 but did not do anything with it. He's coming down towards turns 11 and 12. Doesn't look like anything for him, and Melvin's falling back. I don't know if this is by design or if this is because he just doesn't want to be in the mix right now as JD is on the DRS.
No, Melvin was overshooting a couple of corners last lap that really set him back, and now he's further than a second back. So once the DRS was activated, he's just been losing time on JD and Spain, as they've just been pulling away from Melvin. And Melvin's trying to do his best to at least get the DRS, so she's doing a great job. Right now he's within the 1 second marker. I believe he should get it here on the backstretch, as DRS is activated for these drivers. Also, Aki has now moved up all the way back from 9th up to 5th place, making a charge, trying to get up to Trunks. But Trunks right now is 4.5 seconds away from Melvin, so that's a huge gap between those 3 drivers.
It is. It's a very big gap, but Trunks is kind of running in his own little race right now. No one really in front of him, and the closest car behind him is very far away. As we got yellow flags.
Yellow He's yellow in sector 3 for a quick second, and that's going to be Tanner Johnson that I saw spun out in actually sector 1, as he was a little bit off track in 6th place. Able to get that car going again, as JD has lost a lot of time. He was all within 2/10 of our leader, now further than a second. I have no idea what happened to the Ferrari in sector 1, but he has lost all speed to that AlphaTauri.
I have a feeling that it might be that he overdrove down into turn 9. I wasn't looking at him when it happened. That seems to be what has caught a lot of these drivers out, is just misjudging your braking zone, thinking that the car can handle it more than it can, and simply missing where you can turn in. But he is out of DRS range at the moment. He's got to be on it if he wants to try and catch up to the AlphaTauri of Spain. And back there, Melvin, they're about the same race pace right now, so everyone's kind of running their own race as Spain pulls away in the AlphaTauri. You can see Trunks in the background just entering the front stretch. Everyone kind of in their own little race, and they're going to settle in for the rest of it.
Well, something also to think about for Trunks is he is on the medium tires compared to our top 3, so he can just be on cruise control, at least keep himself within at least 17 seconds of our leader, and he'll be gifted the lead when these drivers have to come into the pits. So that possibly is Trunks' strategy. The other driver that's on mediums is Tanner Johnson, but he is all the way back in 6th, being ran down by Cosmic Clouds, who just got by Hazardous, and now up to 7th for Cosmic. Right now, everyone's pretty spread out.
I wonder if Trunks is trying to two-stop, because we've seen that two-stops are possible. So I wonder if he took mediums at first to try and see if he could stretch it all the way, and see if he can maybe run softs to the end. And at the very least, he'll have to come in very late in the race, but if he can pull enough of an advantage over the drivers that are going to have to three-stop it, I don't know. Do you think he could pull that much time in front of these drivers? It would be a maximum of, I think you'll gain somewhere around 17 seconds if you do that. But it's gonna be really close for Trunks if he's able to do it. As we have a yellow flag that's in sector 1, turn 1.
And that possibly was Frozen, the car that is back there at the moment. So those Hazardous or Frozen that had the issue. We're trying to keep up with the action when the flags come out, but right now staying on board with Spain, who is feeling comfortable. He's slowly but surely pulling away from JD, almost up to a 2-second gap. As actually, I take that back. We're actually going to move back to Aki, who is right on the back bumper of Trunks, and fastest lap goes to Cosmic, but he is so far back from everyone else that that's just the fastest lap to get a bonus point, because the fastest lap in the top 10 will get a bonus point. Just 1 point for that driver.
Indeed. He is 5 seconds behind Tanner right now, which Tanner is 14 seconds rather behind Aki. He's got a lot of work to do if he wants to catch up. That first turn incident really hurt him, but he's got a fast car. I wouldn't doubt to see him towards the front later on. Up here, Aki is on the DRS, hunting down Trunks, and he's on the faster tire, so I would suspect that there will be an overtake pretty soon if he's on this pace, as they're coming out of Ascari at the moment, going down into the final 3 corners.
Yeah, it looks like Aki going to be setting up for that front stretch pass. That's getting very close there in the second last corner, coming around the last corner. Took that a little bit wider, trying to keep the momentum up for that Ferrari machine. Here comes the DRS. Will he be close enough? Looks like going to be trying to outbrake, coming to the inside possibly, and decides to hold off.
Well, he's got the DRS coming out of turn 2 also. It's a double DRS activation zone on this track. So you get it on the front stretch, and then you get it on the straight immediately after that. And it doesn't look like he has enough to do it.
Oh,
no, he does.
Move it off. Trunks, a slight mistake, giving the opening to the Ferrari, and there he goes. Aki, first lap, first corner, gets absolutely dumped, pushed all the way back to 9th place, has now worked his way up to 4th. Only issue is about, I think, 14 seconds back from our leader.
Aki, yeah, he's tracking somewhere around that. He's 6 seconds away from Melvin, and he is closing the gap. He is much quicker than Melvin is right at the moment. Aki was one of the fastest cars in practice, and we saw he had a strong qualifying run as well. and that because he's so far back, he's got to make a similar charge like Cosmic has to as well, which he's about ready to pass Tanner for sixth place back there. I just looked at the relative.
And will make the pass
He
for
did, yeah, he
Cosmic.
has.
Other possible battles is it looks like Spain. He's just been losing a little bit of time here or there. Ever since JD finally got into the DRS zone, he's been moving up slowly but surely, chipping away at this lead, now down to 6/10. Still has the DRS, helping him even more through this little short shoot. And you're seeing this Ferrari of JD pounding the Alpha.
They're putting down some fast laps. They've left Melvin in the dust, and he's on the same tire. Melvin had a really fast qualifying run as well. These drivers are all, during practice and qualifying, we're all within 1 second of each other. It's kind of interesting. I wonder if Melvin's doing this by design or if he has a problem. It just seems like that Red Bull is a lot slower than the top two. He's been out of the DRS zone for a while, and I don't know if that's the reason why or if it's just because he's doing this by design. But Aki is catching him. He's slowly but surely chipping away at Melvin. I would say towards the end of the first cycle of pit stops, we should see him challenging.
I mean, yeah, we're starting to come into the point where the mediums are going to be slightly better than the softs in a way. So it makes sense that Trunks is able to stay with Aki. You just know that Aki, though, just has pure pace on everyone else out here that's pulling Trunks along to possibly get up to Melvin. Moving back up to our leaders, Spain and JD. They're still within 7/10 of one another, and it must be so frustrating for JD because he got to this bubble section where he's just not able to gain any more time on the Alpha, and he's just stuck there within 6 to 7/10.
There's something that these cars have been struggling with is dirty air. And once you get into the wake of another driver in front of you, it's really hard, especially through the faster corners. During the Albert Park, it's got a lot of chicanes in it, which is helpful when you're trying to run somebody down. But for every chicane, there's also an equal amount of fast corners. So you can get right up to somebody in front, but you can't really do anything with it. And this is one of the shorter DRS zones that we have throughout the entire season. If you look at a place like Spa where you have the long stretch with the DRS zone, that's one of the longest ones in the season. You look at this one, there's just not enough room. Because you have to slow down so much in the chicanes. You're carrying so much steam that there's so much that you have to slow down, especially if you're second car following somebody, that there's no real time to gain that speed back up for the second DRS zone after the front stretch. These drivers are trying to struggle with that, and I think JD is struggling with it the most because he can get right up to Spain, and we see like he'll slinky, he'll go far away, come back, go far away again, and then come back. It's almost like he's having troubles as we got yellow flags, so it looks like it was just a slower car.
Yeah, it looks like it was a slower car. Was not able to catch who that was. The closest machine to a Sector 1 would be Frozen, but when I swapped to him, did not see him wrecked at all, so we'll have to wait and see if anything else pops up for these drivers. But at the moment, closest battle on track is our leaders. And I thought maybe Aki could catch up to Trunks, but maybe that spin out was way more on those tires and degrading them quicker than everyone else, as we are 10 laps into this race of 58 laps. Anthony, I hope you're ready for a long race because these drivers are getting spread out, and it's looking like we're just going to be watching these drivers by themselves pretty soon here.
Well, everyone's starting to get into their zone and run their race. I think we're going to see the battles really happen on pit road, as like you said, the only close battle we've got going on right now are first and second within a second of each other. That's not to say that towards the end of the race we could see something pop in close, because some of these drivers are on different strategies than each other. So we're gonna have to find out who's really got the best strategy. It's gonna come down to who can have the most efficient pit stops, I believe, is what this race is gonna come down to.
Efficient pit stops, and who's going to be the bold one to go and try to use the hard compounds. I think that's what Trunk might be trying to utilize here. Stay on the mediums as long as he can until he has to pit. Switch to the hard compounds, make this a one-stopper, and get to the end. While all these other drivers thinking about 2, possibly 3 stops, it's going to be difficult for all of them so far, but right now, Spain doing a great job coming up to lap traffic. That is going to be Frozen that they are catching up to. Here's an interesting thing, though, with lap traffic is how well does that lap traffic want to get out of the way for our leaders? Will they just get out and go into the grass, or will they be challenging, trying to keep themselves on the lead lap? There is a blue flag system for these drivers. If you don't get out of the way, you will be penalized. But there's some drivers that decide, hey, I'm going to still push you and try to challenge you, make this more difficult than it really should be.
Well, they really have nothing to lose. If you're frozen, then you really don't have anything to lose if you get a time penalty. You're the last car on the lead lap. I'm not condoning that you should do this, but
Absolutely not.
but it's just the reality. You don't have anything to lose. You're 33 seconds away from the closest car. To your point, how well do you abide by the blue flag rule? You get a maximum of 3, I believe it's 3 blue flag stands before you get penalized, so you have to adhere to the rule in that allotted time, and they are sprinkled throughout the racetrack. I don't think he's been shown the blue flags yet, but we can see him in the wake of the AlphaTauri of Spain. As they're coming up, they're going to catch him probably in the second sector of the racetrack, if not before that.
And Frozen is going to be kind of just a sitting duck at the moment. Because all these drivers have been racing for 12 laps now, and they're going to have to start thinking about pits here probably in the next 5 to 10 laps or so. Is that first window that we saw on our graphic that popped up. So we'll have to wait and see when these drivers will be getting that the pit stops. As you see, Frozen being a kind sir of a lap machine, dropped it inside, getting off the gas, letting these top 2 go, and then getting back up to speed. But that kind of slowed down Spain just slightly, now bringing this back to 6/10. Will we see JD be able to close it in even more than that? And it looks like the answer is yes.
He's right on the back wing of the AlphaTauri going down into turn 15 and 16. He's definitely going to have DRS, but the thing is, I don't know how well he's going to utilize it as he overdrives the final corner.
That was just the mistake that you could not make here coming into turn number 15. Mistakes were made, but as you can see by our graphic that just popped up, the window is open for drivers that want to utilize the 2 pit stops with mediums from here on out. But I don't think we're going to be seeing anyone come in this time. I think a lot of these drivers are going to try to push these softs to at least lap 20, if not lap 22. But Anthony, was that just me, or does it seem like cloud cover is drifted over to sector number 1 a little bit?
It has shifted. We saw that the clouds were in sector 3 for the majority of the opening laps, and now we're seeing it get really dark in turn 1. Now, we haven't had any threat of immediate rain. It does get a little darker from now and again, but looking at the sky right now, pretty much the entire circuit is in some form of daylight. That does not mean that it's going to stay like that. As we're getting into sector 3, and you can see that it's significantly darker here than it was just a few laps ago. And if you look into the distance, the clouds are getting a little ominous. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some weather be a factor in this race. Australia seems to have a bipolar weather, and I don't think today's going to be any different.
We're on board with Spain, and you can see the clouds. They're starting to move in, and that's something the drivers are going to be thinking about. Is you're seeing Spain pulling it in the pits. Will we see anyone follow? It looks like JD going to be staying out there on track. So the only car so far is Spain, who will follow the Alpha into the pits. We'll have to wait and see, but JD taking the leading point and moving forward. As Spain is coming out of the pits, though, it looks like it might be coming out around 6th or 7th. But not a bad pit stop, moving to the mediums right when our graphic popped up the lap prior. Melvin now up to 2nd, Brakey up to 3rd.
Yeah, Spain has put on the medium tires. I don't think that he is going to keep those for the rest of the race. I think he might swap back to another set of mediums, or maybe we'll see some softs. All the stuff that I was seeing for pit strategies was soft, medium. Nowhere did I see soft, medium, soft, so this might be an audible call from the AlphaTauri team. They might be trying to pull something on these other drivers is we've got yellow flags in sector 2, but it doesn't look like they're legitimate. I think that was just
I think that could have been Melvin that made an accident there. I think he was the one that spun out, as he's lost a lot of time to Aki. But other drivers that possibly that could have been, I don't know who else that possibly could have been. I think Melvin was that incident.
he doesn't seem to have lost too much time. I'm not seeing what his interval is between JD. JD hasn't really crossed the line as he stays out another lap. So the Ferrari team is definitely playing a different strategy than everybody else. They got both their cars running up here pretty quick.
Still both up front, and both will be staying out for another lap. As we're drifting back to see which machines will be pulling it in. At the moment, only Spain, the only driver to be pulling into the pits, and one of the more bolder moves to pit this early, and not even Spain's teammate has pulled it in of Hazardous, the other Alpha out here in racing. Now, as we're going to be talking about throughout the season of drivers' points, there's also going to be constructor points going on for these drivers, and just based on race pace and where drivers are running, Ferrari looks like they're the most dominant team to get that team championship. We'll have to wait and see, though, if either JD or Aki can get that driver's championship, as Spain's going to be that driver everyone has their eyes on, as well as Aki.
Indeed, right now Ferrari are 1 and 3. They're doing pretty good right now. They've been consistent. We haven't really seen them fall too far back. They haven't really gone away, especially JD has stayed right at the front of this field with Spain this entire race so far. Very early on in the race, only lap 15. But so far the Ferraris look very strong. They're the only two car. Well, I shouldn't say that because the racing points have also been consistent. Cosmic had that first lap incident, so we really haven't seen him at the front very much. But he has been running very consistent laps and pulling his way back up towards the front. But something that's shocked me is that the only one that's come down pit road so far has been Spain. No one else has come down, and they're running they're running lap times that are on par with their lap times when the tires were somewhat fresh. Maybe the softs don't wear out as much as these drivers thought they did, and they're willing to go further on them. Spain, on the other hand, maybe it's because he was leading and pushing a little bit harder. Maybe JD wasn't really pushing that much and trying to conserve his tires. He gets a little off the road there. Nothing too bad for the Ferrari. But maybe they've been saving these tires. Maybe they're trying to stretch them. This might not be a flat-out speed race as we thought it would be. This could be something more along the lines of an endurance race where they're trying to make their equipment last longer.
I mean, we're only in lap 16 of 58, so these drivers still have a lot of time during this race. So even if they make a mistake now, they can recoup and come back into this thing. So at the moment, I mean, the driver case in point of that is Aki, who had that lap 1 incident, has driven all the way back to 3rd place. Yes, at 4th before Spain came into the pits, but that's the strategy call that Spain's going for. And for these drivers, I mean, I saw on the for the tire strategy, it looked like the window for this first pit stop was around lap 22 to 24, possibly even 26 for these softs, which seems extremely long here at Australia. But car coming into the pits, that's going to be Aki, first Ferrari in, going to be going out, and he'll be staying on the softs, it looks like, for that Ferrari machine, going for the soft, medium possibly for the end of this race.
Yeah, that was a lightning fast pit stop as well. He's going to get out very quick. He's going to be behind Spain, and Cosmic's jumped him, but he hasn't pitted yet, obviously. But he's on a completely different strategy than everybody else.
Well, Cosmic had that wing issue at the start, had to pit one lap, hit that first lap, came in, got the repairs done, put down some pretty screaming lap times that got him up to where he's at now, which is 5th position. Spain at the moment, though, is climbing and getting quicker and quicker as he is now on the back bumper of Trunks, who's about to lose 3rd place to the Alpha team.
He is. He's on a charge. There's been a 5-second penalty awarded to Hazardous for speeding on pit road. Just saw it on the bottom of the screen. So there is I mean, not to poke fun at him, but I don't think it's really going to hurt his cause.
No, not really. I mean, he's got a big enough gap at the moment as he'll be coming into the pits that he should be all right as he's coming out of the pits now, being lapped down by JD. But
Indeed, he will.
looking at this time, Spain, like I said, right on the back bumper. It looks like might be trying to set up this pass. Does set up for it. Coming down the front stretch into turn number 1. Spain up to 3rd place, waiting for everyone else to come into the pits because he's inside that window. When everyone else pits, he will be given the lead.
Indeed, he will. Something that we have to also mention about Australia that's it's not unique to this racetrack. I believe it happens in other tracks. But because of the double DRS zone, if you make a pass into turn 1 and 2, you still have DRS for the exit of turn 2. So you are in front of the driver. You can still use DRS to even pull a further advantage, which is something nice to see because it gives you an incentive to try and make a dive bomb into turn 1 and make the pass so you can pull out and see if you can leave the fellow competitor in the dust. Because we just saw that happen between him and Trunks. But he's making these medium tires go. He's been faster on these medium tires than I thought he would have been. He's turning in some very fast lap times.
Yeah, right now, looking at drivers that have made stops so far, that's going to be Spain, Aki, Cosmic, as well as Hazardous and Frozen. But these lap times, like you said, have been quick, and it's not slowing down for most of these drivers as Cosmic has put down the fastest lap of the day with a 126.8. Excuse me, that's a 1.26.6 for that Racing Point team. Some of our biggest movers and losers. We got a couple of drivers that have gone up 2 positions, Melvin as well as Trunks. Some of our biggest losers so far. It's going to be Spain, who's lost 2 points, as Aki puts down the fastest lap of the day.
Wow, 126.4. That's a lightning fast lap considering the weight of the car in race trim. We are banging out some really fast laps. It looks like I was looking at the mini map, but it looks like I was just looking at something. There were a couple cars that was right close to each other, but it is just Hazardous and Frozen and relatively close. I'm sorry, it's Tanner and Hazardous that are relatively close to each other on the racetrack.
Hazardous given another 3-second penalty for too many warnings given. Which that is, the penalty system in this game is so interesting compared to all the other ones. I remember last season's penalty system being extremely aggressive towards these drivers if you just made simple mistakes. It seems like this season it's not as aggressive as it once was for penalties and getting too many warnings. So Hazardous must have been overextending quite a many times in a row for him to get a warning there.
Indeed. If you go off the track too many times, cut too many corners, eventually you're going to get penalized for it. So he's got racked up, I believe it's a total of 8 seconds at this point. He got a 5-second and now it's 3-second. I think that's the 3-second penalty.
I believe if you go to the race directory, you can check it there.
Okay. I think it was a 5-second, so it might be a 10-second penalty. It's Aki with another fast lap.
Almost the 125. This is the 126.0 for the Ferrari that we are on board watching as he trying to gain time. Everyone's pretty spread out. The closest cars that are to one another is Trunks and Spain, but Spain's pulling away from Trunks. As right now, Aki trying as hard as he can to just dwindle and shrink this gap between himself and Trunks. That's over 9 seconds. It's difficult for the Ferrari to gain all this time up, but he's kind of waiting for Trunks to go in the pits as the Racing Point crew has been out there for 19 laps on the mediums. He could probably go for about 25, possibly 30 laps on those mediums. Everyone else that has not pitted yet on the softs, which is going to be our front 2 of JD and Melvin, as well as Cosmic, they're going to have to come into the pits here in the next about 2 to 3 laps possibly is the window that they'll be thinking about coming into the pits. But right now, feeling strong and feeling good. Spain, though, he has been catching and gaining on our top 2.
He has. He's been using those medium tires very well. Hasn't seemed to slow him down any at all. He's running 127s at the moment, but that's what you expect if you're on a harder compound tire. He hasn't seemed to have gone away He seemed to, if anything else, he's making up time as he's almost to Melvin. He's within 3 seconds. Yeah, he's within 3 seconds at this point in time. So it won't be long until Melvin is caught. I don't think he's come down to pit yet either. Which, when JD
Yeah.
and Melvin pit, Spain's gonna have just an immaculate lead over the rest of the field.
Cosmic Cloud just got back out there, switching to the softs. So we'll wait and see when Tanner, as well as Trunks, both in the mediums, when they'll think about coming in the pits. It will be after these soft tires come in, as the soft tires are the ones that diminish quicker than the mediums, and the only difference between the mediums and the softs is how quick they diminish, as well as how much grip the car will have during your stint on those tires. Most drivers will we're thinking about possibly doing a medium and hard compound combo for this race, but it's going to be hard to tell as Cosmic Cloud, we were just on board, watched him slide those tires as Tanner Johnson in the pits. First one in with those mediums and swapping right back to the mediums.
Wow, he's going medium. You think he's trying to maybe a two? No, if he went 22 laps on mediums, nah, I don't think he could. I don't think he could.
Melvin getting back out there. No, he could. I mean, if you go medium, that's 44 laps, right? Then you got to go another 14, and you could go on. We've seen drivers on softs go right now up to 20, so you can easily two-stop this thing. If you go medium, if you start on the mediums, now on the mediums, and ends with a soft, should be good to make it here to the end. As Melvin came to the pits, switching to the mediums for himself, the last two cars to come into the pits is going to be Trunks and JD. JD, our leader at the moment, still running pretty good, but he, like you said, that lead that Spain is about to have is going to be massive once all these drivers come to the pits.
Indeed. Spain is only 7 seconds behind JD, and JD's not even going to get to his pit box before Spain passes him on the racetrack, and then he's going to make the trek all the way back down the lane. So it's going to be, I would dare say, somewhere around a 15-second lead by the time that any of this is over. And as we got a car that's slow out of turn 16, that was the Haas. Oh, here comes JD on the pit road.
And JD going to be the first coming into the pits. Next, we're going to see if Trunks, whenever he comes in, but it's going to be giving the lead off to Spain. He's going to be passing JD now, and to the lead where he was at the start of the race, it's going to be Spain and that Alfa Toro.
Yeah, he's already onto to the second stretch, and JD hasn't even let the pits. Trunks goes by, he didn't pit. I think Aki's going to pass JD as well. And he does. So
Makes
JD
sense.
comes out of the pits, 4th place. Fresher tires, he's on the mediums. So he's got fresh tires. I would suspect if he could go 23 laps on the softs that this would be the last stop for JD. I have a feeling that he's trying the one-stop strategy. Now remember, the reason why Spain is so far in front is because he is on a 3-stop strategy. As far as we know, he was the first to come down and pit on lap 13, or 14 rather, and he will most likely not be able to stretch these tires all the way to the end, or they will be very close if possible. He's going to be very slow compared to some of these other drivers at the very end of the race. So it might be a rubber banding effect where some of these drivers can catch him very quick. And of course, it's still dark in most of the tracks, so we don't know if weather's going to play a factor in this race or not. We don't have any telemetry on that, unfortunately. We're just up to guessing by the way the track looks, but it is much darker than it was at the start of this race.
As Cosmic going to be putting and putting that machine, getting back out there onto the softer compounds. And yeah, with seeing JD go out there for 22 laps, you would think that maybe the mediums could make it all the way in. If I saw a team go on the hards like we just saw Frozen go on to, then I would think that they're shooting that this was going to be a one-stop race. But with going to the mediums, I think they're setting themselves up to at least do one more stop here to finish out this race. It might be a very quick stint where the driver is going to be thinking about pitting, and then maybe with the last 8 laps of a race coming in again.
Someone that hasn't pitted and probably won't pit for another few laps is Trunks. He started on the medium compound. Still out there, lap 24. I would imagine he's going to try and stretch it all the way to lap 30 and then maybe put another set of mediums on and go to the end of the race. So we have a plethora of strategies going on right now.
So if we somehow see Trunks go for 46 laps, then I would say possibly JD could make it to the end there on on the softs. I mean, on the mediums, I should say. But I don't see Trunks making it that many laps here on these tires. I think 35 is probably the most you can go, and then you have to come into the pits. So at the moment, I would say this is Spain's race to lose. But Aki is trying to run down that Alpha team, as right now 4.5 seconds back from Trunks, and just trying to get by, but it's such a struggle after coming to the pits. Yes, he's been putting down extremely quick lap times with the soft tires, but at some point he has to move to the mediums, and that speed will drop off quickly.
Something that I've noticed on the relative is JD is faster than Aki right now on mediums. So I don't know how much Aki should be concerned about that, because JD was, I believe, 3.5 seconds back and in the middle of the circuit. Now he's somewhere down 2.5 seconds. He's gained a whole second over the last 2 laps. It could be a battle between the Ferraris, and you'd think the one on the softer tire would be the quickest one, but we've seen where JD is just the king of the mediums at the moment. He is not going away. He is closing on Aki at the moment. Now he's down to 2.6 seconds.
As we're riding on board with JD in the Ferrari, trying to run down his teammate of Aki, and Aki in third place. See on the camera right there, inching closer and closer is JD, and it's one of those things where, JD got extremely close to that outside wall. And one simple mistake could cost these drivers drastically, as we're actually going to drop back to 8th place, where Tanner Johnson is under fire from Hazardous. This is the closest battle on track. And honestly, we haven't seen a battle in a while, as Tanner Johnson's making a lot of mistakes at the moment, giving Hazardous a lot of space to work with, giving DRS, going to be making the pass here down the front stretch.
He's going to get it into turn 1, and that means he's going to have DRS coming out of turn 2. Goodbye. Goodbye, Hazardous. I'm sorry. I got that mixed up. Goodbye, Tanner. There goes Hazardous.
Yeah, Hazardous has kind of been stuck in 8th between both the Haas drivers for a bit here, and going to be on the softer compounds helping himself out here as Tanner's trying to warm up the mediums, and just going to be drifting back as Tanner, as it just looks like his car very upset in the medium compounds and just not able to run comfortably. Moving up to 3rd place, though, Aki has finally cracked below the 2-second marker and is gaining quick on Trunks, who Trunks looks like he maybe has an issue, as he's been out on those tires for 25 laps. Sector 1 incident. Looking back to see who that was, looks like it's cleared up, so we won't know who that was exactly. But again, that battle for second, something to watch out for, as it is getting dwindling. Now less than 1.5 seconds is Trunks and Aki.
And Aki's bringing JD with him, so these Ferraris are going to gang up on the racing point very soon. Again, Trunks hasn't made his stop yet. So, do you think, Cosmic Cloud, what a lap!
I mean,
125.7.
fastest lap of the day, and running back on the softs. I mean, so it makes sense. He's almost a minute back from Melvin. But it looks like Trunks still staying out. Another lap. Pushing it to lap 26.
Aki's within 1 second. He's right there. They're going into turn 1. They could be right side by side by the time they get down to turn 4. I would expect to see a dive bomb here from Aki. I don't think he will, though. It's too early in the race. He can't be making moves like that at the moment. So far, they're minding their P's and Q's going into turn 5.
Getting closer and closer to the halfway marker for these drivers, as we're about 2 laps away. And then we'll start to think, hey, when do you want to come in for possibly your last pit stop of the day? As right now, Trunks trying to turn this race into a one-stopper. If it could be out there for another at least another 2 laps or so. Then that Racing Point machine, that pink and white BWT machine, will be able to make it to the end on 1 stop. But he's lost so much time on the drivers that have gotten fresher tires that it's really just a race to see if he can get a top 5 finish, as it's only our top 4 that are super close to one another. Everyone else is about 10 seconds to 50 seconds or even a couple of laps down behind them.
Yeah, then now Trunks is the meat between a Ferrari sandwich. Says JD's going to have the DRS coming out of the final turn. Should expect him to bypass Trunks any moment now. This is going to allow Aki to pull away from his teammate, and I think this is kind of what he was wanting because JD is faster than Aki at the moment. There's no denying that. He's been able to close the gap, and he's on the softer compound tire, which is something that I didn't expect. So
yeah,
we're gonna
he's been out there for 11 laps on those softs, as right now JD's been out on the mediums for about 5 laps, so fresher tires, and those softs drop off quick. And not very surprised by JD gaining up on his teammate at this point.
Indeed it is. The whole circuit, I just noticed, is starting to look dark all the way around except for the back straight. It looks like Trunks pulled around and actually let JD go.
Maybe the cloud cover is just messing with us, as I want to see what car is facing. Once I get on the front stretch, I'll go into a cockpit view to see what the clouds look like, because from my point of view, it's pretty blue skies in some areas, and yes, there's cloud cover, but it doesn't look like the clouds are really that dark to where we're going to be seeing rain during this race. Looking like we might stay dry, but we've only come up to almost the halfway marker for these guys, so still a lot of racing to be made, as we are at the halfway marker for these drivers, and that puts Trunks in the window. He can make it to the end of this race if he keeps on just chugging along in that Racing Point machine, as he's the only driver that has not pitted so far this race.
Do you think that he's going to leapfrog the field if he does? I mean, yeah, he hasn't pitted yet, and he's up in the 4th position. But when he does pit, there's a car off. That's the Haas.
Yeah, I believe that was Tanner that you saw those 3 drivers trying to get by of Aki, JD, and Trunks. They were able to get by the Haas machine, but that was a very scary moment in a very tight corner where there's no space for any of these drivers to get by. So they got to be very nervous and nerve-wracking at that point.
Something that I want to go back to the point that I was about to make before the Haas decided to take the stage. Even though that Trunks hasn't pitted yet, he's still only running the 4th position. Once he pits, he's going to have a huge gap between himself and the top 3, which are closer together than they look. I mean, the 2 Ferraris are running right with each other, and we should probably jump up to them, because this battle between the Ferraris is heating up. As JD has caught the back of Aki, he's going to be in the DRS zone going down onto the front straight. This could be a dive bomb moving to turn 1 between the 2 teammates.
I know if this was real life, they'd be telling each other, hey, let's play ninth. We're at the halfway marker. Let's not hurt one another. But with this being a virtual race here on F1 2020, you know, those race team management calls that you usually hear aren't really utilized that much. It's more of, hey, I'm a racer, you're a racer. Let's see who's better. And if we bump each other, let's just at least try not to ruin each other's race.
Indeed so. Wasn't able to make the pass that time. Going out of turn 4 into 5, they're still running right nose to tail with each other, and they are closing in on Spain. The lap times have been, well, they've been consistent. I shouldn't say they're closing, but they haven't lost Spain. They're making up ground ever so slightly. So it leads me to believe that maybe these Ferraris have got something that the AlphaTauri does not. As right, you see he's going by his teammate back there. I think that's Frozen. No, I'm sorry, that's Hazardous in the AlphaTauri. Go by his teammate, but whoa! Aki got a little bit on the dirt, and that could have been bad. Here comes JD with a run. Is he gonna pull a move to the inside? He is into a Scary. They're side by side, but it looks like that Aki has the speed on the outside to get around as they go into the final 3 corners. Man, this is getting good between the Ferraris.
And these guys have just been up front. You knew they were going to be good when they qualified up in the top 5 right next to one another. So you knew they were quick machines. And they got to play nice here. If you make a mistake, just don't cost your race or your teammates' race, because this is looking good for a team aspect as well as a personal aspect. Even if Spain wins this race, you're showing that you have pace. It was just a strategy called by Spain that's really helped them get this 10-second gap on second of Aki. But also, that 10-second gap is growing just because you're seeing the Ferrari teams racing this hard. You got to figure out who's the fastest and let them get up front as quick as possible to help each other out.
Well, right now it looks like they're dead even. It doesn't really look like anybody's got the advantage because even though uh, Aki's on older softs, the medium compound tire of JD are starting to wear off. So they're kind of even when it comes to performance at the moment. But JD is right there. It looks like that maybe Aki's going to let JD go. He is.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
Aki's letting JD go.
Well, I mean, Naki's been out there for 14 laps. JD's on 8-lap mediums. Might as well try as they've already. Oh no, there goes JD! Almost taking out each other hard into the wall. And that is going to take out his wing. Luckily, did not take out his machine and ruin his day. I mean, his day is ruined, but at least he can continue racing as he's close to the pits at least here in Sector 3. But, you know, what was looking like a nice move ruins this out, but virtual safety car out for the whole entire field. So everyone now has to keep to a certain speed so they don't lose or gain time on the driver in front of them, as it looks like Hazardous will be given a penalty, drive-through penalty for going too slow. Was that too slow or too fast? During that time.
There's a drive. Melvin's also getting a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, that's
on the
both
safety car. That's big because he leapfrogged into third. That's big for Melvin.
Well, he leapfrogged also because Trunks came into the pits as well as JD, and this helps Trunks out as safety car virtual safety car is now off and these drivers are back up to speed, but Trunks was able to save time and not lose as much as he was going to, which allows him to stay close and within striking distance of Melvin whenever Melvin needs to come to the pits.
Interesting strategy. He's on the hard compound. He is doing the medium to hard compound strategy. So this is a completely different strategy than we've seen any of these other drivers doing. And I'm interested to see how well this works out because he seems to be the only one that's gone for it. Not even his teammate is trying to do it. And Spain was the first one that pitted, and you gotta think that those tires are screaming. And if Aki has anything for him, because they were closing in on him, even though that they were battling, the two Ferraris were battling each other. So I wouldn't imagine that it would be too long before they catch Spain, as they are. I'm looking at the relative. Spain had a 13-second lead at one point, and it seems to be diminishing ever so slightly lap by lap.
I think right now Spain might be aiming for the marker of at least 20 to go, so he would have to be out there for another 5 laps or so in that Alpha. As back in the pack, looks like Hazardous pulling into the pits, and will be getting new tires after being out there for 14 laps. Might be switching to the hard compounds to finish this race out if you're pitting this early, as really the 20 lap to go marker is the best time to come to the pits. You're going to have the best tires to finish this thing off. But overall, we're waiting to see where these drivers will end up as they're going further and further into this race. My name is Sam Dyer. This is Anthony McCurry, and I've got to say, this has been one of the, it's been an interesting one. The driver in second, Aki, he got spun out on the first corner before he even got through lap number 1, has worked his way back up to second. Well, I mean, you got to think he would be up here battling with Spain if he did not get spun out.
That is true. These two drivers would be right close to each other, but that really shows you just how fast Aki is that he's running second, closing in on Spain, even though that he had that lap 1 incident. I also want to say on the point of Hazardous, he was serving his drive-through. I looked back at him as he was in pit road. He did not stop. He was serving his drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car. He's back on the track, and he is right behind, I believe, Cosmic Cloud right now. I believe that's Cosmic Cloud in the racing point that he's behind. No, he's actually, I think that's
Trunks.
Yeah,
that's Trunks that he's behind. Cosmic Cloud would have been up there with those drivers, but he spun out and had a spin out back on around lap 30-ish when we were talking about the Ferraris and their battles. So a lot of issues as Melvin pulling into the pits, looking like this will be his final pit stop, as well as you're seeing a lot of drivers switching to the hard compounds. We'll see if Melvin is going to, actually that's Melvin's drive-through penalty that he had to do.
Yeah, this is drive-through, and that's going to leapfrog Trunks up to third place. And it looks like that Trunks is on a charge, and he's on the hards. So he's definitely on a one-stop strategy at this point. He's the only one on a one-stop strategy. I don't know how well it's going to work out for him though, because he is not really gaining. Actually, I should retract my statement. He really is gaining on Aki. However, he is 24 seconds behind third place, and he's also that means that he's somewhere around the 34 seconds behind the leader. But that is all temporary because Aki does have to make another stop. There's no way that he can run these softs all the way to the end. Spain is definitely going to have to stop. He's been the one that's been out there on these medium tire. Well, actually, maybe not. I didn't realize he was on the mediums. He might be able to stretch this all the way to
There's
the end.
no way he can stretch it to the end. I just cannot see it.
Aki's got a 5-second penalty.
Speeding in pit road as Aki comes into the pits. That is disastrous for the Ferrari that was trying to leapfrog by coming into the pits, getting fresh tires, trying to gain time on Spain. Instead, hurts himself to where now he needs to get past Spain and then get 5 seconds ahead of him, which is going to be so difficult for that Ferrari machine who's already been set back since lap 1. Now has even more woes to worry about. As for Spain, though, I mean, I don't see how he can make it to the end here. I would imagine that he's going to have to pit, probably, like I said, aiming for 20 laps to go, switch to the softs, and just take off from there. Don't really worry about the drivers around you, but you might be wondering, why didn't Trunks go from medium to medium, or some of these other drivers just stick with one tire compound? Well, with the tire compound rules, with the drivers, they must utilize 2 different tire compounds throughout the race. So you could do a start with the softs and then just go medium to the end, or you can start on hards and just go softs all the way to the end. But you need to make a transition at some point with your tires, unless it is a wet track, which then you can just stay on the wet tires that you want to be on. Right now, Spain's been out there. He started on the softs, moved to the mediums. Will he switch to the mediums, or will he go to the softs? It's hard to tell what he will do, as he's still out there on track. Lap 36 of 58. Anthony, it's been a long race so far. We've seen a lot of instances made with Ferrari. Is there any other surprises that you've seen so far during this race that you're kind of shocked by, or things that are just puzzling you?
The fact that Trunks is the only one that's considered a one-stop. And I know at the top of the program that you and I were debating on whether or not that was possible. And, you know, you had got me convinced that it wasn't because, you know, we've just seen the tire fall off has been kind of severe, depending on what compound you're on. And I had actually thought that maybe it wasn't possible by the end of practice. But the fact that Trunks is the only one that's even tried this one-stop strategy, he's closing in on Aki right now. Even though that there is a 5-second penalty, right now Trunks has got a net second place by the time the penalty's added on at the end of this race. But he is not really leaving the back wing of Aki, and he's got fresher tires. So I would dare say that Trunks is the fastest driver on the track right now, just based on overall speed, even though that he's on the harder compound. So that's something that's really surprised me, is that Trunks is the only one that's gone on a one-stop strategy.
Well, also, if Trunks is able to stay this close to Aki coming to the end of this thing, it is a great showing on his part. And he's been out there on the hards. The longer that these tires are out, I think they are at their peak heat and peak of freshness is around lap 10 is when they're at their best timing for the harder compounds. As for the mediums, they're good after about 5 to 8 laps, and then they start to go down. While the hards, they stay good for like at least 5 to 6 laps before they start dropping off. So right now, if I'm Trunks, I'm feeling pretty confident in the way that I'm about to hit my peak, when you're seeing other drivers do as well, as JD just put down the fastest lap of the day.
125.4. These lap times are getting faster and faster as the cars get lighter. That could be attributed to why Trunks is so fast, even though he's on hards, because at this point in the race, the car is significantly lighter than it would have been at the beginning of the race. And hard tires with a full race car would not be very conducive to fast laps. And that might be his motivation for trying to do the hard tires when he did it, because now he's able to have a lighter car. It's basically like running mediums at this point. If you're running mediums on a full tank of gas versus in the middle of the race when you're running mediums on a half tank of gas, it's almost like you're running softs on a full tank. It's weird tire logic that you have to think about during the race, and that might be a motivation to why that he decided to do it when he did. But Cosmic Cloud is on pit road at the moment.
Yeah, Cosmic's been in pits for quite a number of times. I will get that information up here shortly. Cosman's been out in the pits. This will be his 4th stop of the day. Spain's done 1. We know he's going to have to do another one. Akey's done 2. Trunks has done 1. Melvin's done 1. 2 stops for JD, who might be able to make it to the end here. Like we said, Cosmic has done 4. 1 for Tanner, 2 for Frozen and Hazardous for those drivers. Some of our biggest movers so far, Trunks up 3 positions from when he started. Our biggest loser, though, right now was JD, as these two are right on top of one another. It might be Akey losing 2nd place and Trunks moving up to possibly 4 positions this race so far, as he's been doing a fantastic job running down and getting to the back bumper of the Ferrari.
If I was Trunks, I would not fight that hard. Right now, you are in the best position possible. You are behind a driver who's got a time penalty, so you don't even have to pass him at this point in time in order to get 2nd place. I don't think I would be that aggressive this stage in the race. Now, in that same breath, I wouldn't say that you need to sit behind someone if you think you're faster, but I don't think I would be using those kind of bold moves, because that could have taken both cars out easily, and I don't think that either of these two would be too happy about that, especially considering the drive that Akey's put on from the start of this race.
Yeah, it really did, and it's one of those things where you gotta know. You can ask in game. You can ask your race, your engineer, "Hey, what does the car in front of me look like?" And it will actually give you information on that driver if they've got their wear on their tires, what tire they're on, as well as if they've got penalties or not. And speaking of drivers having to come in, looks like Melvin coming into the pits.
Looks like this is going to be his final stop of the race. Looks like he's getting a front wing replacement. So something has happened to the Red Bull of Melvin as he's coming back onto the racetrack. Extended stop on pit road. So it's hard to say what would have happened to him.
There's always the chance. I mean, we even saw during practice cars making contact with the wall as we're moving back up to this battle for 2nd. Possibly could have been that, hitting the wall off of the last corner of the race, and then getting back out there. There's plenty of spots throughout this racetrack where you can just raise the wall if you let your machine drift up too far, and then losing a winglet or so, and it could cost you greatly. As we're now 18 laps to go, Spain is still out there, and he's only lost about a half a second since the last time we talked about him losing time. As I say that, he loses even more time. So Spain's tires have to be degraded to a point where he has to be thinking at least pitting at some point here. But our 2nd and 3rd battle, still some great action going on.
I would say that Spain's probably going to go to the soft tire when he does make that pit stop, because he's well within the window of making those soft tires go to the end and not degrading too much by the end of the run, because you don't want to have that happen, especially when you have 2 cars that are charging fast. Even though the Akey has a time penalty, I have a feeling that he's going to try and stretch these tires to the end. We know for a fact that Trunks is one stopping. He's going to take these tires to the end. So if you're Spain in this situation, what are you going to do? What do you think the call would be if you were the race engineer trying to debate on what tire compound to go on at this stage?
I mean, at this point, like I was saying, with 20 to go, he could probably come into the pits, move to the softs, and be good to run away from this thing, as everyone else will be on such older tires. That softer compound, so he'll still have the lead because he's had a 30-second gap on everyone else. He should still keep the lead and then get fresh tires. But I mean, with how big this gap is, like you said, he could continue being out there. As Cosmet, he's out of the race. He's wrecked out. The first DNF of the season. Gonna go to Racing Point. Safety car out. That whole entire strategy that we were just talking about, out the window. We are resetting these drivers up. They're stacking back up. And Akey has to be loving this. Trunks as well. If you're able to come to the pits now, pit now. Get fresh tires as everyone's stacking back up.
Well, Frozen is on pit road. He took advantage of that immediately. He switched over to the soft compound. Driver was in last. It looked like I was looking on my mini map. Here he goes. That's an interesting call. That's an interesting call. But I know what he's doing.
Already switched to the softs, so Melvin's already set up for this last stint here. Softs being put on Trunks.
exactly
And
what I thought he would do.
a Haas driver is coming in, so that should be for Tanner, as well as JD's in the pits. Melvin should be staying out, but I don't think he's going to be gaining any time because he's too far back. But right now, Spain is still in that point where he's far enough ahead that he is racing to pit road, trying to keep this gap that he has. There is no penalty for speeding at this point because all the drivers are trying to get to the safety car that will be in front of pit road. So right now, Spain can get to the pits, get his soft tires, and still have the lead. And that is just going to be heartbreaking for Aki, who is sitting back in second, 33 seconds back. Looked like he woed up a bit thinking about coming to the pits, but just wasn't able to make it in time.
I'll tell you who this benefits too, and we didn't mention him, is JD. JD, he crashed, but Spain got a penalty.
Spain, 5-second penalty for speeding into pit road, and then we got to watch Aki. Is he going to get another 5-second if he pulls into the pits here?
Now that's big. Now you've gone this whole race. You had a massive lead, and that's been wiped out completely. Now, so both you and Aki have a time penalty. Right now, Trunks is the best position on the racetrack. He doesn't have a time penalty, and if they have to stack back up and they go back to green as they've caught up to the safety car, now it becomes a fact that you got to get 5 seconds ahead of Trunks at this point, who is now switched over to the soft tire, so everybody's on the same tire compound. Everyone's on the same playing field. This is blown wide open for Trunks and JD.
I can't remember. Does JD have... JD doesn't have a penalty, right?
No, he doesn't.
Does Melvin have a penalty? Because Melvin was sticking there with our leaders for the first 5 to 10 laps.
No, he had a drive-through. That was the only penalty he has. He has no time penalty, though. He had to make that drive-through. That's another thing that I just realized, that Melvin is back up in this field. Everyone... So the last 42 laps of racing, just imagine it didn't happen. We're back to square one.
It is going to be a sprint to the finish line. Safety car is going to take us around at least for 2 to 3 laps here, and then we'll get underway. You'll see on the bottom middle of your screen where you've been seeing the penalties, fastest laps popping up. When we enter sector 3, it will show up that the safety car will be pulling in, but that won't happen until most of the drivers are all stacked up. Our top 3 are right here, and as you can tell, there was such a massive gap from our top 3 from everyone else that they're still trying to catch up. It's now 4th place. That's just caught up of JD. Oh wait, no, that's a lap machine.
That's the racing point. Frozen is in between the AlphaTauri and the Ferrari. This could be an interesting curveball for these drivers. They have a lap down car in the midst of them.
That is going to hurt them drastically with the lap machine, because that lap machine does not need to move. They stay there. It's the way they line up is the way that they're going to be taking off. So now, feeling comfortable.
Now he's going to have some blue flags at the very beginning of this, as soon as the safety car pulls in. So he's going to have to pull over, I would think.
Yeah, but I mean, well, he doesn't have to pull over immediately, right? The blue flag will be set once they take off, but he can still be there for at least a lap or 2 and then has to get out of the way. So if they feel like making some moves here and setting some cars back, there's some strategy involved in that point.
Indeed there is. I'm going to ask you this question. How hot is turn 1 and turn 3 going to be after we see this restart?
Oh, I mean, Aki's going to be feeling a lot of pressure here as he got spun out early in this thing. Looking, actually, there's that lap machine in between. Yeah, like, that Frozen is going to be the most interesting car at this moment. Frozen's going to be... He's right between 2 drivers that we talked about at the beginning of the broadcast. There has been some tension between Spain and Aki, excuse me. Both of those drivers have been at each other during this offseason, preparing for this race. Both saying, oh, I haven't been trying. I haven't been putting any effort during practice or qualifying. Well, now it's time to really put it down and see who really is the quickest here, because both of y'all have penalties. And now it's all the drivers behind you that are going to be hunting, and if they're close enough, they'll be stealing this win from both of you.
If the race ended right now, looking at the relative, your podium wouldn't even have Spain or Aki in them. It would be Trunks, JD, and Melvin on the podium. So that's kind of the curveball that we're dealing with. We have to add 5 seconds on to whatever the relative says for the end of the race. This is going to be insane. Spain and Aki have got to pull a 5-second lead over Trunks, JD, and Melvin, and everyone's on. I correct myself. Aki's on the medium still.
Yeah. He switched to the mediums, thinking for the long run here.
So, but do you think in the long run we're well within?
We're still good. I don't understand it.
No, here comes
Frozen deciding, hey, I just need to get out of the way. This is going to be way too intense for me. I would rather go to the back and not deal with this. It's a very smart move because if you got in the way of Aki, I'd be nervous. Because I think he would try to move you the best that he can without damaging that vehicle. But
the two Haas is double stacked, I think. Yeah, the two Haas is double stacked.
But they're both back there. If anything, that's gonna allow Hazardous to keep 7th place. But both of them already had a full lap over Frozen, who's a lap down on everyone else in the field. Looks like everyone is stacked up. I believe the safety car will be coming in this time by, which is going to be giving us 14 laps to go to the end of this thing.
Well, this definitely threw a curveball into the race. It was looking like there's going to be a battle between Spain and Aki. When Spain made his pit stop, he had something like a 30-second lead over everybody. Now they're all back together. It was like this at the beginning of the race. It's going to be like this towards the end of the race. 5 cars are going to be, no, 6 cars or 7. Yeah, 6 cars are going to be fighting it out for this win, as the other 2 are either at the tail end of the lead lap or 1 lap down. That'd be Tanner and Frozen. Frozen is 1 minute 46 seconds behind everybody. He's got to catch up to this field, but it's going to be Spain and Aki. The 2 cars with a 5-second time penalty are running on track, first and second. Safety cars in this lap.
Safety cars coming in.
We got Spain and Aki running 1-2 on racetrack. On aggregate right now, though, it's the Racing Point of Trunks that is going to be your winner or your leader if the race were to end now. Then you have JD and Melvin, who are right there. They, I believe, don't have time penalties, so they, right now, if the race were to end right now, would be on the podium. It's going to be these 5 to fight it out.
They're going to fight it out and see who's going to get this thing done. And here in the Slipstream Racing League, it's gonna be interesting to see who's gonna get the first win of the season. Is it gonna be Spain? Is it gonna be Aki? Or is Trunks gonna try to steal it? Or JD or Melvin? As we're back green, safety cars in, and we're back green with 14 laps to go. Spain leads the way into turn number 1.
Looks like everyone's minding their P's and Q's so far. No one's really trying to run over everybody, but it looks like that Trunks has got a mighty run over the Ferrari of Aki. He's going to try to pull a move down to the turn 3, but he thinks better of it, pulls out. He's right now the leader of the race. I don't think he wants to be that aggressive, but he's got to stay in front of JD. And, oh goodness, JD and Melvin almost got into each other as they were coming out. Right now, Spain's got a blue lap, though. So he's pulling away, but now back here, Melvin and JD are fighting it out. These 2 really want to go at each other.
Spain is loving this. Keep the racing action for 2nd place and for 4th. If you keep that going, I can gap myself. He's got 14 laps to try to gap a 5-second lead. We haven't seen that since the time that these drivers came into pits with fresh tires, everyone close. Aki on the oldest tires on the mediums, has been out there for 10 laps. Compared to everyone else's 4 to 3 laps on the softs just after pitting. So it's going to be interesting, as it looks like Brakey might be the one who's holding up the rest of the field and gifting this win to Spain at the moment, as he keeps on holding off in 2nd. This is hurting the rest of the field at this moment.
JD tried to have a run down there, but now I think Trunks going to be on the DRS. I think the DRS is there. He's going to go on the outside of the grass. It's going to be in the grass. He's going to go around the long way around the track. He's going into turn 1, and he shuts the door on Aki, and he's going to go through to 2nd. Here comes the other Ferrari of JD, but it doesn't look like anything's going to happen. They almost ran into each other again.
Melvin coming in hard, a little bit of contact with JD, and around it goes, contact again with the Ferrari and the Red Bull. As, oh no, Melvin into the course, and that is going to bring out a yellow. Melvin going to reset. That's why he teleported there, moving himself up to 4th. But Aki now, he's got nothing to help for. He's all by his lonesome now in 3rd, 1 second off from 2nd place, and moving up to Trunks. He's the one. The gap is 2 seconds. He needs to keep it within 5 if he wants this win, or if he can run down Spain and get past, as they're both on softs. But Spain has the slight advantage, a 1 lap advantage with the soft tires.
Spain is quicker than Trunks at the moment. It doesn't look like it, but his overall speed is faster than the racing point. That doesn't mean that doesn't really mean much right at the moment, because he's still within 2 seconds. If he can stay within, then he's the winner of this race. But he's got to be able to, like you said, he's got to be able to stay within that 2 second or that 5 second range. Aki's not a factor for Trunks, even if he passes him. Aki's also got a 5 second penalty, like we said. So right now, oh wow, Spain with a 1:23.3. They're running qualifying laps. This is gonna get good at the end.
DRS is on, and for the drivers behind JD and Melvin, which we're going to move back to. These drivers right on top of one another. You saw the contact. Believe there might have been some wing damage for Melvin, but he's still chugging along, feeling good about that machine, as JD right on the back bumper of the Red Bull. Going to be thinking about making a pass here, as we'll keep on looking at the telemetry. That gap between 1st and 2nd is almost 2.5 seconds. There's enough time for Spain to pull away and have enough of a 5 second gap to get the win done, but he has got a lot of work to be done. Has to hit his marks, be perfect from here on out, as we're still watching the battle here for 4th.
This battle between 4th is really heated up. These drivers got into each other at the entrance of turn 3. They are still together. They didn't lose any time between each other, and now you got to think that the heat is on between them. As here comes JD inside. I think that maybe Melvin gave him the position.
Yeah, Melvin easily saw the momentum coming from the Ferrari and said, I'll just give that to you. As now it looks like, I think Melvin, he was thinking, hey, I'll let the Ferrari go and get the DRS, and it failed on him, as the DRS actually went to the Ferrari, who was now pulling away over a half a second. But still, Melvin's close enough. If he's close to keeping with the Ferrari here, he'll be able to get the DRS for the next couple of laps, as Melvin pulling into the pits. Too much damage on the Red Bull machine. Has to get the wing repaired, as he'll be losing even more positions here. As actually, I look back, the next car that's closest was a lap down of Tanner Johnson, so Melvin will come back 5th, but so many seconds will be lost here, as we're going back up to Trunks, who's just losing more and more time. It seems like it's almost a second a lap, and Spain pulling away like it's nothing.
Yeah, indeed. I don't think that this is not the thing that Trunks wanted to have happen. They're on the same tire compound. It looked like everything was working out for Trunks at the beginning, because he was on the hards and Spain was going to have to come down and pit. But now they're on even playing grounds, and we're really seeing the AlphaTauri stretch its legs. That car has got an amazing speed advantage over the Racing Point at the moment. And it's so interesting to watch that you thought that these drivers would be even right to the end of the race, but as we've seen, there is an advantage that Spain has over Trunks. It seems like he's able to corner better. It seems like when the pressure's on, he's able to deliver, and I don't think maybe Trunks is having some struggle with the pressure of having to keep up with Spain. He's right now praying that these last 10 laps go by much faster than they are, but they are not going by as quickly as he wants them to, and Spain is still pulling away.
10 laps to go, and when that pass was made on Aki, it was about 12 or 11 laps to go, and has only lost about a second, maybe like a second and a half on Spain since then. It's so, just looking at the math, it's not looking great for Trunks to get the win. But a podium finish is looking fantastic for the Racing Point machine. And also for Aki right now, running back in 3rd place on those older mediums. That is going to be a race to watch out for, as JD is less than 5 seconds away from Aki, and right now will be moving up to the podium position where he's running at the moment.
Right now, if nothing happens, Ferrari's got a guaranteed podium, because the closest competitor to them is Melvin, and he's 31 seconds behind JD. Aki, with the 5 second time penalty, now has fallen into the clutches of JD by the end of this race, so JD would move up to the 3rd podium spot. But you got to think that Ferrari's going to easily take the Constructors' Championship lead at the end of this race, because they have both of their cars running up inside the top 5, as the other cars, even though they have teammates, the one car that doesn't have a teammate is the Red Bull of Melvin. With the other competitors in this field, they all have teammates, but right now they're spread out from each other. As we know that Cosmic is out of the race. That was the other racing point. Spain is leading the race in the AlphaTauri, but the other AlphaTauri of Hazardous is running back in 7th, and the two Haas drivers, Tanner and Frozen, they're running 6th and 8th. So right now, Ferrari is the most consistent out of the teams overall. They are definitely going to have the constructors lead going into the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Well, I just want to give a shout out to Hazardous. We learned that today was his first day of being on F1 2020. We usually here on the FRN network, we've seen Hazardous racing in stock cars and doing it quite well in that. Road courses is really not a strong suit, so still a great showing. Be proud that you've actually made it to lap 50 here today in this full race of a full race is still a long time. Fatigue will start to kick in at the halfway marker, and these drivers have mentally been doing a pretty good job. You saw the little mistakes that were being made by Spain as well as Aki that gave them those penalties, but still a great run by both those drivers. And right now, Trunks, it might be too late as he is drifting too far back, almost outside that 5-second marker.
Indeed, it is. We gotta give another shout out to. I gotta find him. Gotta give a shout out to Tanner. Even though that he's been one of the quietest drivers this entire race, but he has been consistently holding that 6th position down. We haven't really talked much about him. The two Haas drivers have been really close to. They're right within each other right now. Except the difference is that Tanner's got he's got a 7-second lead over Hazardous, and Frozen is almost an entire lap behind Hazardous. But you got to give credit to Tanner. He's stayed consistent. He's been a gracious backmarker. Also, when the lead cars have come up to him, they've been able to they've been able to get around him no problem. He's been a really consistent driver today. He's kept his nose clean. I'll give a shout out to Tanner for that.
Tanner's been doing a great job. Frozen has had a very eventful day back in 8th place, but that Haas machine's still chugging along there, and yes, might be a lap down, but still putting on a great show for himself, being able to at least still be out here on track. It's a long race. You know, so a simple mistake can ruin your race completely, and him being out there is a great showing. But back up front, I think the car that's making moves is JD. It might be slowly making a move, but it looks like he might actually want to pass his teammate here, as he has now cut that gap that was once over 5 seconds to less than 4, and almost 3.5 seconds between 4th and 3rd place of Aki and JD.
Indeed so. Well, we've seen these two Ferraris get nose to tail with each other several times throughout this race. They've almost crashed each other 3 separate occasions. And we saw JD, his teammate let him go, and then he overdrove the chicane on the exit of the back straight. I think I mentioned it, but I'll say it again. That safety car was the best thing that could have happened to JD. It looked like he was done from this race. He has pulled his way back up to within 3 seconds of his teammate. And right now, he is in 3rd place once the race ends, after we assess the penalties at the end of the race. That's the thing that has to be in the back of Trunks' mind too, is that even though that he's losing ground, I mean, he's lost the lead at this point. He is now in 2nd place. We have to give credit to Spain. He has pulled a 8.4 second lead over Trunks. He is on fire right now.
Yeah, no, Spain has been, ever since he's gotten the lead from qualifying, he's just been on fire. He had the different strategy than everyone else. Pit early, it gave himself a massive 30-second lead to carry him forward. We knew he was going to have to pit one more time. The safety car came out, and it just set him up to get this, be pulling away from everyone else. We thought maybe he threw this race away with getting that 5-second speeding penalty at the pit road. But now in the lead comfortably with an 8-second, almost a 9-second gap on Trunks. But here's the thing, Trunks is about to be under fire by 2 Ferraris, as when Aki is gaining on Trunks, the same amount is being gained with JD onto Aki.
Indeed so. Now, JD is 4 seconds behind Trunks at the moment, because he is 2 seconds, well, it's more like 5 seconds or 6 seconds, depending on the way you slice it. But if JD was somehow able to catch Trunks, we could have a very legitimate battle for the second place position because I think that he's hurt himself too much with that time penalty. Even if he catches Trunks, he's gonna have to pull 5 seconds ahead of him in order to gain a position. JD has already got to the third place position. So right now, Aki's just waiting for the race to be over.
Well, the main thing that I was just trying to bring up is the fact that if JD catches up to Aki might be caught up to Trunks. Trunks might not be getting a podium finish for Trunks will be here, but he might not finish in second. With how quick we are seeing JD catching up, and as I say that, Aki loses some time on the car in front of him. Looks like both his just. It's been a great race overall. You got to feel bad for Ferrari that were looking like they were going to be getting possibly a 1-2 finish if things went their way, but contact between JD and Melvin that threw everything away for those drivers. As looking back to see what's going on back here is looks like drivers making some passes on one another. Hazardous getting by Frozen, and putting Frozen now officially 2 laps down, I believe there.
Indeed so.
So those drivers still racing along, 5 laps to go. And it's been Spain since the start of this race. He might not have led every single lap, but practically he did just because he pitted early that made him lose time. And this is just incredible racing on his part.
We thought that strategy was going to be one of the poorer strategies because he pitted some 6 laps before anybody else even considered going down pit road. That seemed to have worked out in his favor. Now, the safety car did help him. He was able to go get fresh tires and not... I mean, well, it slinkied the field back towards him, but at the same time, he's had the overall pace to stay in this position. He didn't have the threat of losing a position while the safety car was out because he had such a huge lead that I don't think it was almost like they were pitting under a green flag situation, and there was no way that anyone was going to be able to catch him. Had this race not gone into the safety car, we might have seen Trunks maybe work some magic on the hard tires and maybe try to get a huge run over Spain. But again, he's just had the pace today. No one's able to match the pace of him today.
Absolutely not. It's been difficult for anyone to catch up and get by Spain, but we're on board with JD as he's made it now less than 2 seconds onto Aki, and it's more so of can he officially pass the Ferrari, because with him being this close, with the penalty that Aki was given earlier on in this race, it is going to be gifting a podium finish for JD, and Ferrari looking like they'll be finishing 3-4. Great day for them. And Melvin, we thought maybe he was going to be putting up a little bit more of a competition in the early stage of this race. Was running around third, drifted back, and just it looked like the strategy never really worked for him as he's pulling back into the pits in the Red Bull machine, deciding to put fresher tires on. As looks like those 9 lappers were just no longer good. Possibly picked up some debris on those tires. Still will be continuing to be in 5th place. But moving back up, JD still 4th, less than a second and a half on to Aki, who's in 3rd, and you can see they're right on top of one another here in the next couple of laps, and JD will soon get DRS as we're coming to we're at 3 laps to go, about to be 2 laps to go when the leader of Spain crosses the line.
He's got a massive lead over Trunks at the moment. Now on paper, it's not that massive. It's only about 5 seconds that he's got the advantage on when you add the time penalty. But on track at the moment, he has got a almighty lead over Trunks. And Trunks in his own right has had a great race too. He's had the pace to keep up or to pull away from the Ferraris, which we saw Aki and JD. JD qualified 2nd for this Grand Prix, and he has... Right now, the best he's got is 4th place. Well, a net 3rd place, but if no one had penalties, right now he's in a 4th place position. And he is right on the back of Aki as we look at the relative. They are right nose to tail with each other. And they are catching Trunks ever so slight. Well,
they were.
No, they're not. Yeah. I think the threat of, the threat of the 2 of them getting together, I think it's getting to them because Trunks has been able to pull an advantage. We got to give credit to Aki. He's made these medium tires last longer than I think that we have expected. He's still got some pace. It almost makes me wonder what would have happened if he had swapped to the soft compound during the safety car.
Oh, easily would have been up there with Spain. I mean, they both were based off qualifying, based off of practice. They were within a couple of tenths of one another. 3-second penalty going to be given to Frozen, who's already 2 laps down. A rough day for Frozen so far. JD within a second has the DRS, trying to utilize it to get up to Aki. But yeah, I mean, Aki, he's had so many woes at the start of the race. First lap got wrecked, spun out, had to work his way all the way back from 9th up to 4th. Pit stops went down. He moved up to, I believe, the best he was 2nd at one point. So Aki's been doing a fantastic job in this Ferrari, trying to work his way up. But you also got to give credit to JD and the fact that he got spun out with Melvin and somehow has come back to challenge and get up and should be getting a podium finish here, as he is still on the back bumper of his teammate Aki. And as long as these two don't make contact and wreck each other, they should be coming out 3rd, 4th, just swapping positions.
Indeed so, and that's probably what the team is trying to order them to do. Don't run into each other. You're in a great position right now. We have the Constructors' Championship if you just finished the race, and they're coming on to the final lap of the race. I believe that Spain has already taken the white flag.
Coming across now, white flag is now in the air for the AlphaTauri.
Well, this battle between the Ferraris, even though that's not for position, I don't think I would, and you can tell that they're not really trying to run each other over, but again, do you think it's pride? Do you think JD wants to pass his teammates just to say, yeah, I can pass you on the racetrack, also I don't need a time penalty? Because that's really what's happening at the moment.
He's he's not using the tick button just yet. He's going to save that for, I believe, right here. He's got a lot of ERS that he's got to save up, but these drivers are going to be pushing it the best that they can, using the DRS whenever possible, as JD is still behind in 4th on track now, but once the penalties go through after they cross the line, will be moving over to 3rd position. But yeah, a little bit, the way that they're driving looks like they're just in cruise control, as our leader, Spain, is coming through Sector 3 right now.
Coming out of Ascari, going down to the final 3 corners for the final time. It's been a fantastic drive for the AlphaTauri. He is gone at the front of the field to the end of the race. Here comes Spain out of the final turn, going down the front straightaway. Your winner of the Australian Grand Prix is going to be Spain and the AlphaTauri. Fantastic drive.
AlphaTauri going to be getting it done. Coming across 2nd is going to be Trunks in that Racing Point machine, and then coming across the line in 3rd and 4th is going to be the 2 Ferraris of Aki and JD, and Aki given another 5-second for unserviced penalty, so 10 seconds will be added on to that Ferrari, but had plenty of space to work with Melvin over a minute back after having to come to the pits twice for that Red Bull machine. And didn't really have to worry about going back to losing 6 for Melvin, but man, and Melvin is now just cutting the course at this point. We're on board with him, and he's trying to just finish things as quick as possible. We'll see if he decides to just cut this part of the track. As you see, Tanner has crossed the line and officially finished his race, and yeah, right there. Oh, Melvin, you got to be careful, bud. You're the last car out there on track, and going to be trying to finish this thing out, but Anthony, what an amazing run for Spain there. We saw the dominance. He got the pole and never looked back.
He has been the most dominant driver today, for sure. Being able to steal the pole away from the 2 Ferraris who, number one, looked like they were the fastest throughout all of practice and qualifying. And to get the win here today in Australia, fantastic drive, coast to coast, for Spain and the AlphaTauri.
That is going to be, Trunks, driver of the day, and I was about to say that, was looking like it. Biggest move, I believe he moved up 4 or 5 positions here today. But your winner is going to be Spain, hoisting the trophy here at the Australian Grand Prix, race number 1 of the season here for the Slipstream F1 Championship Series. What a fantastic run for the AlphaTauri guys, and this is the way they wanted this season to start. All they needed to do is help Hazardous get into a groove and start getting some top 5 finishes, and they might be challenging for those wins. As you can see on screen now, those are the penalties that were given and the exact finishes where drivers were at. Everyone finished except for Cosmic Clouds, who was taken out early in this race. But overall, great runs for everyone out here for at least finishing this race, as it was a long one.
When you're looking at the time or the stops here, there was a mix of strategies. The winner of this race did a 2-stop, Trunks did a 2-stop, but everyone down here, you see JD did a 3-stop, Melvin did a 4-stop, but that was more or less due to damage that he had to repair. An Aki with a 2-stop. So we saw a mix of strategies going on, and that safety car towards the end of the race certainly threw a wrench into all their plans. And I think that was kind of what helped Spain at the very end of the race. He was able to get those tires and be able to really establish his dominance. But Trunks, almost had a shot at this win, could not do it in the end. Spain with the fastest lap of the race too, so he's going to get the maximum amount of points available in a Grand Prix weekend.
And as we're being taken to the interviews, we're be swapping over, getting ready for interviews. That's right, the action is not over yet. We're going to have a quick talk with our top 3 runners here today, JD, Melvin, and your race winner, Spain.
I just want to say that another thing that I noticed throughout this race was there's just the amount of battles that we did have on the track. It didn't look like that we were going to have that many. There were only 9 cars, but we saw battles throughout the entire race. And
yeah, that was the most impressive thing for sure with all these guys.
They were able to have close racing despite the limited amount of cars that we had today. This track is not small. This track is one of the more average sized tracks on the circuit, but they were able to have battles throughout the race. We had some heart-stopping moments at some points between the Ferraris and that restart with all the cars bunched up. That almost took my breath away. That was thrilling to watch down into turn 1.
And now we're going to be trying to set up to see who's going to be coming in. I don't believe that we have Trunks, so we do have 3rd place running driver JD here. So we'll be moving him into the booth for us. And JD, you got us in the booth here, bud?
Yeah, I got you loud and clear.
Well, JD, you weren't able to get by Aki, but you had some instances popping up there during that last sprint to the finish. How was that race overall for you, though, besides that little mix-up that you had with Melvin?
That last run with Aki, I knew he had the 5-second penalty, so I didn't really push too hard to get by him. I just wanted to stay within striking distance in case something happened. And I knew I wasn't going to catch up to P2, so that's kind of all I had for them today. The thing with Melvin is unfortunate. I'm not really sure what happened. I'll need to see a replay. But yeah, that kind of ruined our race a little bit. But it was a good day overall. I think the first stint really got the most out of the tires. Me and Bronson really going back and forth. He'd eke out half a second, 3/4 of a second, then I'd reel him back in. He'd pull away, I'd come back, and it was good fun. And I think we could have made the one stop strategy work today if everything fell to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, it was a awesome race on your end. I mean, season-wise, it's looking like constructor points is going to be going to Ferrari. I mean, you guys are so quick up front, but personal driver championship, do you still feel like, even with how you were seeing Spain, aka Bronson, running, you still think that you have a chance to beat them out here on these future races?
I think it's too early to tell. It's only race 1, but I think we're pretty equally matched, and I think we'll see what the next couple rounds hold, and then I can get you an answer for that.
I have a question for you, and this is going to be for the future. Going into Bahrain, do you think that the 2 Ferraris are going to have an advantage there too? Because we saw that you two were able to basically never leave each other's side. It seemed like we would always cut back and look at the 2 Ferraris right wing to wing with each other. Do you think that same that same drive is going to carry over into Bahrain?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Logan is a great driver, and I think we're on pretty equal footing. You know, we both won a championship for a reason. You know, I think as long as we just coordinate our team strategy a little bit better, I think we'll. I think Ferrari has a good shot at the constructors, especially, and for Bahrain too. I think we can pull out a 1-2.
Yeah, I mean, JD, speaking of former championships, it's been a hiatus since we've seen Slipstream back in racing form. How does it feel finally getting back in racing with another season here with Slipstream?
It's pretty cool. You know, I've been involved with Slipstream for a long time, and it took me a while to get that first title. It felt pretty good when I did, but to come back and race with some familiar faces and some new faces under the same banner that I helped and Logan helped grow, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Well, before we let you go, JD, if you have anyone you want to shout out for this race, go on ahead.
Yeah, no, I'd just like to shout out Christian Gomez. He's the one who supplied me with my my sim rig of sorts. You know, him and I are good buddies, and I probably wouldn't be as competitive without him. Basically donating his rig to me. So, cheers, Christian.
Well, that's JD. Going to be coming out with a third place finish here today. Great run on your end and a podium finish to start off the season. A great way for you to start. Have a great rest of your night, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Well, we do not have Trunks at the ready, but we do have our race winner of Spain, aka Bronson Stafford, who believe Spain might be changing his name here in the next race. We'll see, but how are you doing there, Bronson?
All right. A little tired.
You pulled out a fantastic drive today. I would expect you to be tired. You went coast to coast tonight, going from the pole position to the checkered flag. Very good drive from you tonight. Do you think that what was tonight particularly hard for you? Do you think that maybe we've seen that Australia seems to take a toll on drivers, and you were able to be consistently the fastest driver on the racetrack? How much mental what am I trying to say? How much mentally did you have to prepare for yourself to pull off this drive tonight?
You know, it's one of the tracks where it's just there's so many high speed corners. You have to always stay mentally focused and aware, and it takes the toll. Like physical tiredness isn't really a thing. It's just you get so worn out doing the same motions lap after lap, and then once you're done, you feel it set in, kind of thing, like how much you've been doing. And yeah, definitely not easy. I wasn't quite sure where speeds are going to rack up, as I actually feel quite a bit slower on this game compared to last ones, and I wasn't sure like what was going to have to be done strategy wise, and JD was keeping up really well, so it was a lot of I was managing fuel till like lap 34 when I finally could run standard forever instead of having to run lean for sectors 1 and 3, and it was a lot of back and forth and a lot of watching when guys would pit and see what they were doing and trying to manage as best as possible, and it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, the safety car came out for you on those last 14 laps to go. When you had to come into the pits and you knew that you had a 5-second penalty, well, you came into the pits, you got a 5-second penalty. At that point, what was your mind and how was your mindset shifting from, hey, I got to pit one more time under green to, oh, now I got to pull away from everyone?
Yeah, the safety car I really didn't want to see. I had about a 30-second gap over Logan, and it's only about 22 seconds you'll lose on a pit stop, so I was going to be able to put on a fresh set of softs and just run to the end and get fastest lap. But the safety car came out, was able to pit anyway, but honestly, it's one of those things, I lost focus and I hit the pit limiter, and I think I hit it twice and I didn't activate it, and I sped into pit road by almost double the speed limit, and I was like, well, this is going to be fun. So safety car went in and I just threw it on rich fuel for as much as I could and tried to do qualifying lap after qualifying lap, and it worked out. I got to about 6 seconds. I think Evan got a little sideways on a curb or something he was saying, so was able to get a little bit of a break for the last 10 laps.
Well, Bronson, our next race is going to be Bahrain. We know how fast you were during here at Australia. How are you feeling about next week's race at Bahrain?
I've never been super great at the track, especially on this game. I feel like everyone's pretty decent at Australia, being the first race. Like, you pick up the game, it's the first track you do, kind of deal. Bahrain, I've always kind of struggled at. I'm not even sure how it is with tire wear or anything. I've done so many 50% races. The 100%ers are completely different now compared to when we used to do them back on 2014 and 15 and all that stuff. So I don't know. I feel like the practice session is really going to be maybe see where we stack up.
Well, Anthony, you got any more questions here for Bronson?
No more questions. I just want to congratulate you on your win tonight, going from first to the green or to the checkered flag. You have any shout outs you want to make tonight before we end the broadcast?
Yeah, you guys sticking around for, well, just honestly, it's a long race. It's a long time to sit there, and I hope we can get bigger fields because it's actually really fun. We had, like I said, we only had the one safety car, and it just someone made a mistake in the only place, like in the most common place to make a mistake. So it'd be great to get some bigger fields for you guys. So there's a little bit more to watch around, unfortunately. But it's still fun, and shout out Shane, my teammate. Never got in my way, never got in anyone's way. Really, he did pretty solid for his first race on this style of game. So we'll see how he gets going for the rest of the season.
Well, that's Bronson Stafford, aka Spain. We'll see if he wants to stick with Spain from here on out. But congrats on the win, and have a great time. Well, Anthony, I gotta say, it was a top to bottom, a great run for everyone out here. But what are some of your final thoughts of this race?
Well, the biggest thing that we thought going into this race was, because it was a limited field for today, that maybe the racing wasn't going to be as good as if we had more cars on the track. But I think that our expectations were not only met but completely shattered. It was non-stop action from about lap 39 all the way to the end of the race. You had battles on the racetrack. You had penalties being handed out like it was candy. The safety car coming out, a virtual safety car, the two Ferraris running into each other on more than one occasion. It was nice to watch the race. It was nice to call this race. There was nonstop action throughout the entire race. And there was a little part between the lap 10 and lap 30, but other than that, you were completely blown away.
Yeah, once the pit strategies came into fruition, you saw the action coming all together. There was racing from top to bottom. Like you said, there was that little tiny lull period, but a great racing action. We're excited to see if the field gets bigger from here on out. It was already fun to watch with just 9 drivers. What would happen if we had possibly 15, 20 drivers out there? Ton of action to watch, but my name is Sam Dyer. This is Anthony how do you say your last name? I want to make sure I say it right.
Loads of people get it wrong. It's supposed to be McCrory. You're supposed to say the second C, but you could just say McCurry. Everyone does. It doesn't bother me.
I'll get it right by the next broadcast. But you've been watching a presentation of the Flatout Racing Network here on our YouTube channel. Our next race for Slipstream will be next week at Bahrain, but the racing action continues on tomorrow as we've got the 87 Vintage Series racing. That is going to be an awesome one to watch. I know Seth and I have got the coverage for that. That will be during at 8:30 Eastern time, but we'll catch you all on the next one.